Very nice.
Can you see me?
Yes, we can.
Or you just look at
We're
that
filming.
thingamajig?
You're going to be looking at me.
Would you like to see
Oh,
yourself
okay.
for a second?
Oh, yeah.
There you go.
Oh, okay. That's what I look like.
So, gorgeous.
Yeah, gorgeous. Yeah.
So what do you want us to focus on?
All right. Well, I want Aunt Elle to tell how her and Grandma met. And
how?
We're going to tell, well, actually, we'll start with your childhood since you're Stanley's sister.
That's going back a ways.
Tell me
where you were born.
where you were born.
I was born in Schenectady, and I was one of 4 children. The third one was a girl, and my father was very pleased because he had 2 boys and then a girl. And then my little brother followed. So there were 4 children in our family, 3 boys and 1 girl, and I was, I think, the apple of my father's eye. When I think about it, you know, he never spanked me. Because he said he spanked me once, and I sobbed all night. And he said, I'll never lay a hand on that girl again. And he didn't. So anyway, I had a nice, happy childhood, even though it was Depression times. And when you look back on the Depression, people are so, I guess they had it really bad off. I had a real happy childhood. I met Pat, who became my best friend. And still is. Pat DeForest now, but it was Pat King. And when she moved into the neighborhood, we all said, gee, are they boys or are they girls? We didn't know because the girls all had boy haircuts.
And dungarees.
Right? And dungarees, yeah, dungarees too. And we kept saying, I wonder if they're boys or are they girls? But then we noticed that they were girls because they were a little bit developed. And we soon became friends with all of them, really. They had 5 kids in the family, and then a boy was born years after the last girl, Shirley, was Pat's sister. It was the King family, and the oldest one was Dorothy, then Ruth, then Pat. No, Ruth, Juanita. It was Juanita, wasn't it? Not Nita. I always called her Nita. But I think her name was really Juanita.
It was one,
Was it? Yeah. Juanita. And she was entirely different from the rest of Pat's sisters, wasn't she? I thought she was very different. Let me see. Ruth, Juanita, Pat, Shirley, and Herbie. We were a big family. But very nice. And we became friendly. I became friendly with Pat, who's still my good friend. And
when
anyway.
she started dating your brother.
Pardon?
They were friends.
Yeah,
Stanley
and then
Pat.
Stanley dated Pat. And they used to romance up in a catalpa tree.
Oh, that was a story. Stanley, tell that.
Tell the story about that.
Well, I don't know too much about it. Pat just says she and Stanley would be up in the tree, and I guess my father would be calling Stanley, and he'd be calling for him to come home for supper or something.
Bed.
For bed? Oh, for bed. You know, it was time to go to bed. We always had to go to bed at 9 o'clock, and it'd be daylight saving time. It was still light out. Everybody else on the street could play until I don't know what time, but we had to be there at 9, which we thought was very unfair because every other kid could stay up so late. But our family, my father was strict about going to bed and getting your sleep and all that jazz. So anyway, we had a good time in childhood, even though we didn't have any money. And Pat's family had less money than my family. My father once in a while would get a job working on the railroad. Or he would, I guess during the Depression, he sold eggs. He peddled eggs. And I can remember him holding the eggs up to the light, I guess to see if they were fertilized or not. I mean, I never knew that when I was a kid, but I know as an adult, I thought back on it and said, he must have been looking for, you know, whether the egg was fertilized or not, and then they threw those out. and sold the rest. They peddled eggs for Depression, one of his jobs. In fact, he took a variety of jobs. During the Depression, you were very lucky to have any kind of a job. So, and I think we were on relief for a little while. I'm not really sure about that. It seemed like my father always was getting different jobs. But they were very scarce. It must have been a trying time for families. Although we had a happy childhood. And I think your childhood was happy, Pat, right?
Partly.
I mean, playing on the street with all the kids. In those days, everybody was outside and playing games, like Rover, come over, and what was the one where you'd go and hide and everybody'd have to find you?
Sardines.
Kick the can.
Sardines.
Kick the can we
the
played.
can.
Kick the can.
Sardines was more of an indoor game. We didn't play that outdoors. I
Talk
think.
about your relationship with your brother, Grandpa, Papa, Pa.
Well, my relationship with my brother was I got along good with him because my father would never let them touch me in the way of beating me up or anything. And they just played with their gang of friends and I played with mine. So I didn't do very much with my brothers that I can recall.
Until you started having kids of your own, and then you started family time together, or
You mean when I got married?
once you got married and you spent couple time and all that with them?
Oh, when I got married, we, were apart from the rest of the family. To some extent, I lived in Groton, Connecticut for the first year. I think it was a year that I lived there because Mike was in the Navy. And he was stationed at Groton, the submarine center of Groton, Connecticut. And he was in submarine service, so I lived there for the first year. And then he was discharged because the war was over. It was during the Second World War. And then, what else did you want to know? That's
so
it.
then you moved back to this area?
Yeah, then we moved back and Mike went back to work at his job. He was an apprentice graduate from the General Electric, just like Stanley and Durwood. And my two of my three brothers graduated from the apprentice course.
No, Durwood did it.
Durwood graduated from the apprentice.
Course.
Yes, he did. And then he went to college.
I thought he just went to college. Okay.
No, he got a job working as a graduate machinist or whatever they are when they graduate. And he went to college at RPI and got, his degree. So then he became an engineer and he worked at the GE so many years that he's retired now. We're all retired, everybody.
Where were you born in the dairy barn?
No, I was born in Schenectady.
Okay.
I lived on Foster Avenue. I lived in a different house, though. The house I grew up in was a house that was joined together with 4 other houses. I think it was 4 other houses. They were all joined together. And the one Pat lived in was right around the corner on Lang Street. We lived on Foster, she lived on Lang Street. And those houses were all joined together. You lived in the second one from the end, right? The third one from the other end. The Ways lived in the end one, then the Jordans, then the Kings, and then the McDonoughs in your area.
Right.
And I don't know, Gannons, all I remember are Gannons in my group of houses.
Or what?
The Gannons
Oh.
and the Shires and
Ask her when she's got started.
your aunt lived there in the house that we lived in. Aunt Alice lived in that
That's a
house.
good story.
And then my mother and father, right? And then Geminelli's. But they had an alleyway. I always wanted a backyard. Oh, I hated that alleyway. I thought, oh, someday I'm going to get green grass and I'm going to have a yard.
Tell us about
That left a big impression on me, not having a yard. You had a yard. Pat had a yard. She was around the corner, the same kind of houses, row houses.
The
And
yard
she had a
was
great
divided in
big
half.
long yard.
My mother had one half for flowers, and my father had the other half for vegetables.
I know it. I loved her mother's flowers. She could grow the most beautiful garden, couldn't she?
Talk more about some of the favorite times you had growing up and some of your fondest memories with being
I
friends
think
with Pat.
playing with a gang of kids on the street was a real fond memory. Don't you think, Pat?
Yeah, I said stressed that it was amazing that boys and girls played together.
Yeah, we all played as a group, you know, and we played Rover, come over, and we played a scavenger hunt type thing too, didn't we?
Yeah.
You had to go find stuff. And then we would bounce a ball up against a saloon. The guy'd come out and yell at us. On Lang Street, there was a grill. It's called a grill now, but we called it a saloon. And, you know, the drunks would come out of there drunk sometimes. But we'd bounce balls up against that wall, and I
No
think
window
the
on the
bar
wall, all
was,
brick.
yeah, the bar must have been on the other side, because the guy would come out and yell at us and say that the customers were being disturbed by us bouncing those balls up against that wall. But we didn't care, did we? We bounced it
We
anyway.
stopped for a while.
We'd stop for a little while, and then we were back bouncing the ball
You guys
against the wall.
troublemakers or good kids?
No, good kids.
Oh, we were wonderful kids. Never did anything wrong, did we?
Never. No funny trouble stories, no getting into trouble, no big.
I can't think
Stories,
of
anything
getting
else,
in
girls?
trouble. No, the boys got in trouble though,
Any
didn't
stories
they?
about Stanley getting in trouble?
I don't remember
Remember when
about.
his fun? What do you remember when his friend got a little chunk taken out of his leg?
Oh yeah,
Riding
riding the
on the
bike.
No, I don't remember that.
Okay.
See, I was younger than Stanley, so whatever happened to him, I was centered on myself, I think, more than my oldest brother.
Yeah.
I
So
don't
talk now
remember
about
that.
Lake George. Gigi talked a little bit to start about kind of how the tradition started, so we've got that. So when
I
did
think
you
Pat started with her youth group, and that's how
Yeah.
we happened to
and
get
so you
there.
joined talk about how you joined maybe the next year or so, and then
Yeah.
what Lake George means to you, and some of your
Right.
favorite times.
We used to go to Pine Lake, which was a real nice sandy beach, and it went out gradually so the kids wouldn't drown, or at least we thought they wouldn't. But it was a nice sandy area. I loved that beach, didn't you, Pat?
Right.
It was
Also,
perfect
the
for
fact that it had a
kids.
place the kids could swim to and dive and jump.
Oh,
You know
the
that float
the
thing? I
dock
love that,
like
the
her.
dock.
Yeah, they could swim, and that was over their head, right? But they could swim from where you could stand to this dock, which was just a short ways away. And, that way they got confidence that they could swim in water over their
Yeah,
head.
tell them about me teaching you how to.
Pat's always teaching us because she was a good swimmer. How'd you learn how to swim?
My father.
Oh, and she would be the lifeguard for all of us. She taught us how to swim by having her, she'd stand out, or she'd be out over her head and we'd swim around her. I think, wow, what a way to learn how to swim.
Never happened.
You were the lifeguard.
I was.
So she was the one who knew how to swim, and we just figured she'd save us if we drowned.
Climb a tree. She didn't know how to climb a tree even.
Oh, good.
Yeah, she knew how to climb trees. I never did learn how to climb a tree. But she and Stanley would be up in a tree making love phrases to each other.
So then when did you start you started to go to Lake George after Pine Lake?
Yeah. You went with the youth group, wasn't that it? And you liked Lake George and said, oh, you got to come there. So we started wherever Pat and Stanley went as a youth leader, we followed.
What are some of your favorite memories of Lake George? And
Oh, we had good times there. Just having the family there and the kids, and they all loved it. And because we have 6 cousins the same age as my kids, so they all could play together and enjoy each other's company, and the adults could enjoy each other's company around the fire. And it was very reasonable. How much was it to rent a
I think
place?
it's 50 cents the first year.
It was 50 cents?
I'm not sure, but it was low.
I know, it was real cheap. I
Now
never
it's
thought it was that cheap. But
wow. So what are some of the things you do at Lake George? What are some of the traditions?
Well, we had campfires and roasted marshmallows and swam mainly and laid on the beach and did hikes too. We'd hike from the rock to the beach or the beach to the rock. The rock is, you've been there, haven't you? You know where the rock is? That was a nice place because you could dive in the water and be over your head right away. You've been there, haven't you, Matt?
Many times.
Mm-hmm.
Yes,
Yeah.
many times.
Have you?
Oh, yeah.
So any favorite moments from Lake George? You said just the family being together. And
I think, yeah, just having everybody there was nice, and the kids enjoying playing with each other, and the adults enjoying each other's company.
So it
I
started
think
from
that's
just
what makes it nice.
started from a few pupils now to how many? How would you say? How many people now, Lake George?
I really don't know how many.
How many cousins?
Let me see. Margaret's family comes.
A lot of them come though.
50 people at least, huh?
I really don't know how many. Margaret's family, there are, well, in her immediate family, there are 5, right? Russ, Dan, and Dave. There are 5 in her family. And then, you know, Dave has children now, and
Yep.
so
they
does
each have kids.
Dan doesn't
Probably
have
about
kids.
50 people or so, you
I
think?
say easily.
Is that how
Easily
many are
50 to
there?
75 people. And
You
you'd be
think there's
going-
that many? 50 to 75? No, I
I would
wouldn't
say-
think there are that many.
Come and go. When I first went that one night, I remember when I first got there, there seemed like there were a lot
Were
of
you
people.
shocked by the number in our
Yeah.
family?
I was.
Were you
Yeah, one
overwhelmed?
No, it was fun.
We made you feel welcome, didn't we? We hope we did.
You did.
So, anyway, we've had good times. Right,
Yes.
Pat?
Best.
We've had a lot of fun.
Up for the first minute.
Okay.
So what are you doing, writing a book?
Taking notes.